Welcome to Renewed and Radiant Podcast. This is where we have the real and raw conversations. So if you're ready to rise into the woman you were created to be, you're in the right place. And together we can design a life you love. Hello, today is going to be good. Now, I have to tell you, if you are a woman that, wants to stop fighting herself and start designing a life she loves, you are in the right place today. This is going to be so good. I have Cendrine Hosoda with me. She's a trauma-informed spirit, soul, body health consultant and NSI practitioner who helps women regulate their nervous system. Now, that might not mean anything to you right now, but after today, you are going to see how powerful that is and the effects that it has on every part of you. And this is so that we can build sustainable health and resilience. She has a gentle, faith-integrated approach. She helps women stop fighting themselves and actually start designing a life they love, which is I'm all about that. I use that all the time. So I love that. So welcome, Cendrine. I am so happy to have you here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here too.
It's going to be good. You talk about you actually were able to heal asthma from addressing stored up grief and chronic stress. And I definitely want to get into that today for sure. But please start with, I like the real and the raw conversation. So share with us your story. Where were you and what got you to what you're doing today?
Yeah, because that's definitely connected.
Okay.
It's everything I've done on my own journey of learning to not fight, but work with what's presenting is what got me here. And I just kept doing this trial and error, like just keep turning over another stone until you find what works. And because my story started with early childhood trauma, like complex trauma history throughout, and it wasn't really a theme, like it wasn't really talked about. And so you just learn to you're either going to sink or you're going to just function, right? And I was very functional. And so it was all my coping mechanism was dissociation. It's just like, it's past. I'm like doing all of these things and not realizing that it was stored in the subconscious and the nervous system had been patterned. I did not understand that. And so that's where that and push comes with like Paul talks about, like I do things I don't want to do and I'm not doing the things I do want to do. It's that thing. It's like our conscious fighting with the subconscious because they're not unified. They're not aligned. And that was my earlier, approach. Like I thought, well, I did it. I did the healing prayer stuff, that church was offering. I'm doing the scriptures. I'm doing the promises. And that's all great. Like I'm not trying to deny any of that, but I was missing the piece of the subconscious. It was just like the whole patterning underneath and how the body stores things. Because when you dissociate, you don't know what you're storing because you just aren't aware. So fast forward, I think like I've escaped the abusive childhood. I'm good to go, adult now, right? And then I just, got primed. So I ended up in another abusive situation. And it was a little bit different. So it was hard for me to recognize the similarities for a while, but the trauma kept piling on. And so my body started talking with issues like asthma I had asthma since sixth grade, but then there were other things, including I ended up having adrenal fatigue. I had leaky gut. I had herniated discs. I had just all of these things. And because I didn't understand that I was dissociated, I was just thinking, well, I just got to eat healthier. I just got to do more of the supplements. And I was a poster child for my naturopath. I was doing everything right. And it was helping some, but the core issue cannot be like supplemented away. It's like if there's emotional stuff, you can't take ashwagandha and think it's going to be okay. It helps. It helps, but it's not going to be at the root. Like what I'm about is getting to the root.
Love
And
it. Yeah.
So that's what I ended up happening. I'm like looking at myself, doing all these healthy things. It's almost like consuming my life. And I'm thinking, I'm still not as vibrant as other people. I'm not getting as much out of it as I should. And so it's like God kind of said, yeah, you've got all the supportive things in place. You've got the supportive lifestyle and everything. Now let's go look at those emotions.
Like,
So
okay. Those we have to deal with those.
Yes. And so he took me, it was really because somebody I entered this emotional health intelligence kind of class and it was said several times, you just have to learn how to grieve well. And nobody ever bothered to tell me what that meant. Like, how the heck do you do that?
Yeah.
And I, true to form, I got me all the books that I could to learn. And everything was so focused on losing a person as opposed to other grief that is not death related per se, that it was very hard to apply some of these things. I mean, there were some things. And so God and me just kind of went on a journey, and it consisted of like what now in NSI we call it minimum effective dose. And God was already doing that with me before I ever understood it. Because like, sometimes if you're a type A person, you want to just go do it all, be done and move out. And then you're overwhelmed, right? So this was like, took a year. And I would just spend like maybe half hour or so at a time in the evenings, just doing these little things. And I ended up getting a lot of help from a book that was written to teens and how to manage grief and how to somatically release it.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of did it by faith because still I was not connected enough to my body to feel any changes, but I was just doing it. And after the year kind of came to an end, so my asthma mostly manifested when I was exercising hard or when it was cold. And so I just kind of would usually take a preventative inhaler puff before exercise and in the evenings when it would cool down so I could sleep. And then I realized, man, I forgot to do the inhaler last night and I didn't wake up. And then I forgot to do it for exercise and I didn't have a tight chest. And as I started watching it, and it's just like day after day, I didn't actually need it. And I didn't put the dots together until I read somewhere that asthma is connected to unresolved grief. And I go, oh my gosh, this was the thing. Not mega doses of like vitamin C, which is one thing I tried, It was going after the grief and doing enough of it that the body doesn't have to carry it anymore. So that's one way that I really connected with this, to go after it, realizing, yeah, we are spirit, soul, and body, and all three parts need to come together. And my emotional piece was just not there until God finally helped me figure out that's where we do need to go look next.
So, Cendrine, tell us what NSI is. And did you have some training or what were you doing when this all sort of happened?
Yeah. So the NSI training I didn't have when I was doing the grief processing yet, but I did have other training that helped me. The thing that helped me the most was that I had developed a really good ability to dialogue with God. That was a really good foundation to kind of keep coming back to him and have that connection where my trauma story didn't villainize him for not protecting me or things like that. Like I was able to separate and go to him for the help, and that was the baseline. And then I had some internal family system type learning. I am not trained in it formally, but I learned enough to be able to use it on myself when stuff came up and just kind of start recognizing triggers and go, look, what are they actually trying to reveal about fears and beliefs and things like that. So I just kind of pieced it together as I went. And then as I was learning more about emotional intelligence, the whole nervous system regulation piece came in. And the way it was presented was mostly polyvagal heavy, which is like, we're just focusing on the vagus nerve. And I didn't know there were so many other input systems that impact the nervous system, not just the vagus nerve. And for me, because of dissociation, I couldn't tell if it was helping or not. I was just doing it because science says, right? So when I stumbled onto NSI, they introduced a concept to me that when you do an input for your nervous system that fits for you, like our bio individuality, like something may work for one person and it's not going to be that great for another. But they say, or they teach you ways of recognizing when you're doing one that your nervous system registers as safe and good, it's going to be system wide, and you're going to be able to tell by a simple mobility range test, for instance. So what you would do is do an exercise of mobility range of motion before you do whatever drill you're going to do and after. And if you get more range of motion, then, that's a keeper for me. And I tested this because I did the 4, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 8 forever. And once I learned about NSI, I tested it and I'm like, it's doing nothing for me. And I discovered other ways that were doing a whole lot more. And so I was able to stop wasting my time and really target what works for me. So yeah, it's about getting to know your nervous system and what you can do to consciously directed. Like, you know, plasticity has been talked about a lot. So it's like, that's not something that happens or doesn't happen. It always happens. It's just that when we don't know that we have agency over it, it's just going to go automatically. And then you have to negative adaptations, which could look like overeating, or it could look like ruminating thinking, or because it's just all these ways that the nervous system tries to help you compensate so that you're not going to lose it.
Yes, right. Survival mode.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so when you have specific knowledge about what you can do to actually positively direct your ship, then all of a sudden you can start reducing the need for these coping mechanisms, because you're saying, I hear you, nervous system. You're procrastinating again. That means you're saying there's something too much going on. Let's look at what we can do different and go at it from that way. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. It's, we can, like you said, it can just be a default when we don't know. And I'm so happy for this conversation that we're having because it's bringing awareness. I mean, I'm already learning so much, and I know my listeners will as well, that we actually can control a lot of this. It's just
Yes.
like with our physical bodies, a muscle knows no age. So if you continue to work it and strengthen it, it does not matter what age you are, you're going to
That's
get
right.
stronger and more physically
Yes.
fit. Same with the nervous system, which is so fascinating to me. And so we're going to get into this today, which I'm excited to. You're going to take us through a little exercise here to actually show how we can do this. I tried it earlier and I was like, what? What? We have to do this on the podcast. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, Sandrine, so you got to the point where asthma was healed. You
Mhm.
recognized that it was just from calming your nervous system, releasing the trauma, the asthma went away. Then what happened?
Yeah. So I was still in the middle of the abusive situation. And
Mm,
so it gave me, like, when you think of your nervous system as a bucket, and like everything goes in there, the nervous system doesn't differentiate between whether it's a physical stressor or the environmental or emotional. Like, it all goes in the same bucket. And as it rises, that's when like it starts freaking out, which is then you get those outputs you don't like. You know, asthma was one of them. And
mm.
because I was taking some of that grief out of the bucket, the water level was able to come down enough to have capacity to go look at some of these other things, like, how do I figure out to be safe in this, because it's not so easy to leave sometimes, and then figuring out what are the baby steps that I can go towards, instead of feeling so overwhelmed that you're just collapsing. So as I got that, like the asthma out, there was natural more capacity to start digging deeper into boundary setting, for instance, for me, because that was huge. That was a huge threat to my nervous system, because boundaries were punished. It was that was my trauma patterning. So to unlearn that was another way to get stressors out of the bucket. And because I was doing the nervous system nourishing stuff, it gave me capacity to actually start doing these kind of courageous little steps and trust that it's going to add up. And it just kept getting better from there, because every little win then gives dopamine hit, and then your brain says, let's do more of this. So it's a repeating cycle in a good direction. It's not
Wow, that's
easy, but
fast,
it's good. It's very
right?
rewarding. Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's like so many things that it's simple, but it's not usually easy,
Hmm. Hmm.
but so effective.
Yes.
Love this. So, I mean, you also mentioned procrastination, which I think is fascinating because put the nervous system together with procrastination. What's the
Yeah.
connection?
Yeah. So when you look at everything that's happening as an output of your nervous system, instead of beating yourself up that you're not self-disciplined enough, that already brings the stress load down, because what you're realizing is, if the nervous system's already overwhelmed and you're supposed to do all these things that are also overwhelming, then it's going to make you procrastinate so that you do less. So it has less to handle in the bucket. So it's like strategic. And when you start interpreting that message, I can recognize when I'm procrastinating, and sometimes I don't want to go investigate. But once I do, I'm like, oh, that's bigger of a deal than I thought. You start recognizing pretty quick. So what's going on? And then like, oh, that thing happened. Yeah, that was bigger than I thought. Let's process that. And then all of a sudden you can go back to the job at hand. So it's just recognizing your nervous system's actually for you. It's trying to ask you to co-labor to get the best output, because then, as you gave new input in terms of attending, attuning, validating, taking care of what was needing a little attention, then the pull of the procrastination reduced. And now you can move over to the more performance that you want, which is like being more present, being more productive, and things just coming easier. And all of a sudden you don't think about it like, oh, now I'm finally disciplined. You're just like, oh, it's easier. It's not so hard anymore. That's
Yes.
how I see it from an NSI lens.
I love that. So, so interesting. Especially as high achieving women, we get really good at sweeping it under the carpet kind of thing,
Yeah,
or just pushing it
exactly.
aside, or I'll deal with it later. Well, as
Later.
we know, yeah, later usually never comes, right?
Yeah.
Until it has to be dealt with. But
Yeah.
I love that becoming that awareness. I use it all the time with the women that I coach for their physical health, where we pay attention to, okay, what caused say maybe your stomach to react like that, or what did we eat or do that day to cause the brain fog or the lack of energy physically that way.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
so also that can be used to check in on your nervous system, things like
Mm-hmm.
procrastination or anger, exhaustion. In the
Yeah.
same way as we can
Yes.
physically, we can become aware with our nervous system. Okay, what did I do? What did I think? What was said? What came up that I
Mm-hmm.
need to take care of first so that I can actually
Mm-hmm.
heal and move on? I love
Yeah.
you talk about the root cause. I'm all about getting to the root cause and
Yeah, because
healing.
otherwise you're spinning your wheels maintaining or managing when there's better available. It just
Yeah,
takes a little extra work.
exactly. And then it's so freeing because then
Yeah.
it's gone. You're like you've dealt with it. It's healed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you
Mm-hmm.
have so much more freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And I don't
great.
want to give false hope. Sometimes it takes a few rounds. It's not like sometimes you don't just go visit it once and you're done. Like sometimes it's a repeat thing because the way the brain patterns is through repetition. And if your pathway of procrastination is like several decades old, that's a lot of myelination around that pathway in the nervous system. And so you will have to keep repeating the other pathway of, okay, I'm recognizing procrastination. Here's the new way I want to do this. And every time you walk the new path, you're starting to I don't know if this is a word, demyelinate the old path and strengthen the new one. And the more you do it, the faster your brain starts patterning. Oh yeah, that's the way we're going now. So sometimes it takes repetition and
Yeah, yeah,
it's
so many
just how it
years.
works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating. Because so many years. I always say, even with your health, and if you're trying to lose weight, or all of the
Mm-hmm.
balance your hormones, this has been years, years,
Yeah.
leading us up to this.
Yeah.
So it takes
Yeah.
time to, like
Yeah.
you said, to reprogram that and get things on the good cycle.
Yeah. And I don't blame anyone for wanting a quick fix. It would be nice.
Don't we all? We all want the quick fix.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they never work.
They really don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so interesting. Okay, can we do one of your practices, Sandrine?
I would love to show you one. Yes. So, like I explained, that you do want to do an assessment before the exercise so that you can tell what your nervous system is saying to you. And my favorite one is the cervical rotation, but I'm going to show you the one with the shoulder because you said you really like that one. So I'll do two assessments. But what you also always want to do is sit straight. And in case of the cervical rotation, you want to make sure you go back in the same place after the exercise where you did the original assessment so that you have the same markers. So what you do is keep your shoulders straight and you turn your head all the way to the right and you look out the right corner of your eye as far as you can and just mark mentally what's the last thing that I can see clearly and just mark that. And then you come back to the center and you rotate the other way, do the same thing, look out the left side, notice what you can still see clearly and mark that. Sometimes reassessments can be great on one side and not so good on the other because of structural issues. If it's not great on one side, but one side is good, that's still a good assessment. So now that we have that, because of stress being sort of more accumulated in our age group, I thought we'll do a kind of a stress processing exercise. It's very somatic, and I'm going to explain it a little bit first, just so you understand the science nerdy part of it.
Okay.
There are different hormones that get released when you hit your bones. And when I say hit, I'm not meaning beating yourself up. I'm just kind of like this. That releases a signal to your bones. And the bones there's like a tandem of two hormones that will release a cycle that says, okay, we're doing the impact, because impact mimics running, like out there on the savannah situation, running from the lion, right? Except we don't run. We have other stressors and we don't just go run it off, right? So when this is a great thing to do at the end of the day or after a stressful meeting, we can actually just give a little impact to our bones. And that will start signaling to our bones to release the hormone that says the stress cycle has been completed. And then you take a deep sigh afterwards. So keep in mind where the markers were. We're going to test it afterwards. I'm going to stand up to show you because it's a full body kind of affair. And I'm just going to bring my leg up to show you, like, I'm actually starting by the toes. And I'm just kind of making a little fist and just gently do it as hard or as just what is comfortable to you. I'm just going around my bones, up the shin, all around, up the knee, and up the thigh. Just tap, tap, tap. And then I go back down the same path. And then when I get back down to my toes, I switch legs. I'm starting on the other leg at the toes.
Yeah,
And
if they're listening to this, they need to watch it on YouTube.
Yeah,
But
and if you're driving, definitely come back to this. Like up and down the shin, all around the knee, back and front, any part. Even if you're fleshier at the thighs, for instance, it still works. And then once you've done the legs up and down, then you can come to standing and start working on the hip bones, just kind of patting all around. And then you can go in the back. I kind of go like this on my spine because I can't make fists as well in the back, but just kind of reach what you can. And then reach as much of your rib cage as you can here. And then come up to the clavicle area. And then we go down one arm from the shoulder down, across, all the way to the fingers. Flip over, tap back up. You can go a little bit to the back shoulder if you can. Just go what your motion is able to do. And then go to the other arm, all the way down the fingers. Flip your arm all the way back up. And then if you want, you can do a little bit of very gentle, of course, kind of the back of the head, the skull. You can start to do fingers instead of fists around the skull. And if you want, you can also kind of just tap around the face a little bit. And then take a deep breath in. Nice, slow exhale. And now let's see what your nervous system thinks about that. Look to the right, see if you can see farther than before. And look to the left and see if you can see farther than before. And I just realized I totally forgot to do the shoulder assessment, like the range of motion here. If you wanted to do that one, just kind of make a straight arm with the right angle and you go see how far down you get. Of course, now it doesn't work because you didn't do the pre-assessment. But if you want to try, because not everybody, for me, the shoulder is not the best because I have shoulder issues. Like if one, there's many more than these two. And you can find one that works. You'll find one that works. So tell me, how was it for you?
my goodness, mind blowing to me, to be honest. Literally,
It's so fun, isn't it?
I mean, I've studied the nervous system a little bit, but nothing like what you've done. And this is like, so Cendrine has a free resource for us that she has offered for our listeners. And in that is she takes us through this and you understand a bit of the science behind it. And you can try these things out. But so I was trying it out before our call and before I'd even talked to her and I was like, what? I could not believe the difference. And now with this one as well, I can't believe the difference.
Yeah. And a lot of us carry a lot of stress in our neck. So the rotation, like the pain is so much less for me after I do an exercise. So it's like, it can be more mobility. It can be less pain too. So it's nice to have that feedback. Because if you had just said, yeah, it was nice, but like, but if you then reassess and you see, well, your nervous system can perform better because it doesn't have to brace with the stress that it's holding. It's like it opens you up even more. It's like this double dose of dopamine for your system and that relaxation. And you're starting to connect it and get more intuitive about, I think my nervous system needs a little something right now,
I'm excited to like this is going to be like my new party favor or something.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that.
I'm going to have everybody try this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just fascinating. And what's amazing to me is, especially with our bodies. We're such amazing creations that simple little thing like that, so simple,
Hmm.
but you can just feel it. You can feel your cortisol decrease. And then I love that I can literally see the difference and just how it's so simple and
Yeah.
easy for us to do. So, Sandrine, is that what they call tapping? I've heard of tapping before. Is that the
No,
same?
well, I mean, tapping can be done many times, many things. I think you're referring to the emotional freedom technique tapping, which is like what I did on the face. Like these are
Okay.
some, like the inside of the eyebrow and the outside and under. We use that for the emotional processing piece of getting stuff out of the bucket. We
Oh,
use that a lot because what happens is there are meridians close to the skin surface on those points that there's many other points, but those are like, I think they kind of condensed it down to like, these are the potent ones. And like, there's one at the top of the head too. That signal to the amygdala that this is actually safe. And
okay.
so as you're processing intolerable emotions or pain, while you're tapping, it's almost like saying, hey, amygdala, you can kind of chill a little bit. It's not as bad as all that. We're getting to it. And so it helps on the somatic piece to do that rewiring, while some of the other tools are more the applied neurology piece. It's why it's called neurosomatics, is
Okay.
because it does both. It does body stuff to help the stuff actually move out, but also works with the different brain regions that get impacted from trauma or stress, and then don't always work as optimally as they could. And when we give it stimulus, because the brain craves information. So when it gets precise information, it can relax. Somebody compared it to like, it's kind of like a SWAT team that will not go in anywhere if they don't have audio or visual, it's like, so when you start giving your nervous system some inputs that have been underused or not trained, suddenly your nervous system's go, oh, here's what I needed. I can relax now because it's like I have enough information to not be on threat alert because I know we have enough safety signals to
Wow.
relax.
Wow. So interesting. I love this kind of stuff. There's just so much to it. And keep it simple. Thank you for that. And
Mhm,
it's so easy for us to understand and giving us that example where like we can literally you could see it in the moment. So
mhm.
I really encourage everyone to get the free resource, go through that because it's so effective. And, with working with women, especially with their hormones, it can be hard to like really work
Mhm.
on bringing those things down. And we can say, like, stress is such a foundation for so many diseases.
Yeah,
And you can say, I know I need to stress less, or I can try and encourage them in different things to do. Things like this really in the moment really, really help. And
it's
it's just a
very
simple
practical.
practice. You're
Yeah,
very practical, yes. And a
yeah,
simple practice that literally, what did that take us? A couple minutes
yeah,
maybe at
yeah.
the most.
It's like I could do this.
Exactly. And I see the difference, which is really makes it worth it. Yeah. Sandrine, we have to tell people how they can follow you, get in contact with you, get the free resource. Please give all that information.
Yeah. Okay. So in the free resource, there's a little bit about different testing assessment things too. So if either ones that I showed you now didn't work, there's a few more in there. And also I talk a little bit about what to do if you didn't get a good assessment, because that happens. That's your nervous system saying, I'm not liking this. And we can work with that. So if you're curious, especially if something didn't work, I recommend you go through it. There's like 4 lessons in the regulation video to kind of walk you through and show you what the baseline start place is. Because like once you have the regulation piece down, you can then go up the next step to resourcing, and then you'll have capacity to do some of that emotional processing. And it's just beautifully where you can build on things, but like when you start trying to lose weight and you have months to go, but you start feeling great 2 weeks in, it's like, okay, this is what happens when we just work on the baseline with nervous system stuff too. Like, yeah, we still have all this stuff to get to, but this is good. Even if we stay here for a long time, this is good. So that's in the free resource that's on my website. And my website is pursuingwholesomehealth.com, which has basically everything on there. You can get to the blog. I have lots of blogs on there. You can also read more about what an NSI is and the other ways that I work. You can schedule a meeting with me. There's links to the Facebook page. So basically you find everything there.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Would say the website one more time.
Pursuingwholesomehealth.com.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so good. I'm not feel more relaxed and better already.
That is wonderful.
Excellent. Yes. Okay, before we go, so I would like to say some practical takeaways from this is paying attention to your body, recognizing that when things like procrastination or maybe anger or frustration, things come up, recognize it's not a character flaw. It's not something wrong with you. There's probably something inside that needs to be dealt with and
Yeah.
healed. And so, recognizing and giving yourself grace in that
Mm-hmm.
and doing
Mm-hmm.
that, the simple steps, not always easy, but the simple steps that will take you towards that healing and help you to actually be free, which is amazing,
Yes.
which is our ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
So, Sandrine, a lady listening and is thinking, I know I'm wired. I know I need to bring my cortisol down. I have stress. I have procrastination, all the things that you're talking about. What is one practical thing that she could do right now to get started towards that healing?
Is it bad that I say just download my free resource and start doing it?
You know what? That's exactly as I was asking the question, I was like, that's exactly what I would say. That's what I'm thinking right now they need to do. But okay, so that's
Yeah.
number one. Any what would be another thing?
Yeah. So another thing would be to just meet yourself with compassion. Like, because we tend to sometimes over spiritualize things. And and sometimes what's really needed is compassion, because compassion is incredibly healing. And compassion itself is regulating. And when you start seeing like, yeah, you ate that whole bag of chips, you know what that tells me? It tells me that something's really bothering you. I
Mhm.
don't know what it is, but I believe you. Kind of like just start being compassionate with ourselves instead of saying, now you gotta go walk for 2 hours or whatever. It's like just practice compassion of like recognizing that's telling me something is in distress, and distress deserves compassion, not judgment, not punishment. That's a very practical cool way of applying our spiritual values from God. Like learn to love yourself as you're supposed to love your neighbor. So yeah, I would say just start learning to love yourself really well.
That's so good. That's excellent.
Mhm.
I'm excited because we're hearing more and more about this kind of thing and compassion on ourselves and taking care of ourselves. And I feel like the pendulum was so far. You got to work harder and do more and eat less and be hard on yourself and talk hard to yourself. And I feel like just in the last few years, it's starting, thankfully, to swing back a bit more too. No, actually. And man, maybe it's just the age too. Maybe it's my age, the age of the ladies I work with, but it's like recognizing I've done that for 40, 50
Can't do
years.
it
And
anymore. Yeah.
exactly. Yes. So let's swing the pendulum back a bit to some grace, some compassion,
Hmm.
paying attention to ourselves, what we actually need.
Yes. Yeah, and that's that. I love that you said that, because we don't want to get to the navel gazing self compassion piece where it's just all about us and poor me and all of the things, but like recognizing what's the actual need. Do I really need to punish myself, or do I actually need to support myself? And so you're still having ownership. You're not saying it's okay. You're saying, I see this. Let's do something really constructive, as opposed to something that just makes things worse.
Yes, exactly. That's good.
Hmm.
The balance there that sometimes we have to have the hard conversation with ourselves, right? But not
Hmm.
always. And then there's
Hmm.
there's balance there and there's knowing. And I feel like when we do
Yeah.
things like this, it helps us to know the difference and to get in tune with ourselves and pay attention to what is it, like you said, what is it that I actually need at this time?
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, let's do some fun rapid fire questions just to help people get to know you before we wrap up here.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Favorite healthy food?
I am a health nut. And one of my favorite things is to make my own granola with sprouted nuts and seeds. And yeah, it's one of those things where I have to really portion it out, because I could eat the whole batch. I really could.
I love that. Yes, that's good. Okay, favorite place you've ever traveled to?
This is funny because I have these two sort of go-to answers. The first one is beautiful in terms of location, Sweden, the lakes, the nature, all of that. But the most fun that I ever had was figuring out the underground system in London. I just enjoyed it so much.
Wow, that's awesome. That's good. Okay, and one more. What is something that might surprise people to know about you?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can tell from my accent. I was born and raised in Switzerland, and I have an identical twin sister who still lives there.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for this, Cendrine. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we finish up today?
I love the like people who are coming to your podcast. I know they're already minded towards themselves and loving themselves and paying attention to what's going on. So I just want to cheer you on and say just work on one thing at a time. It will all compound and add up. I'm a living example of it.
Amazing. I love that. This has been so good. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and for taking us through that exercise today and just helping women so much. Oh, helping everyone, but we're specifically
Yeah.
talking to women today. I want to encourage the ladies, get the free resource for sure. Go through that. They're short videos, but you'll be amazed. I at
Yep.
least I sure was, of the effectiveness of it. We need things like this. So thank
Yeah.
you for being here today. Thank you so much, Cendrine. It's been a blessing getting to know you, and I think there's going to be more to come from you and me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. If this episode spoke to you even in the smallest way, would you do me a quick favor? Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Leave a like or a review because it truly helps the message reach more women who need it. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, share this episode with her. You never know. Your share might be the spark that changes her entire season. I'm grateful you're here, walking this journey of renewal and radiance with me. And until next time, keep choosing to design a life you love.